based on something, yes, insects. Even a blob's got a name. You know, and you understand what I mean when I say a blob, right? So when I'm doing something like this, and when you're doing something like this, what you're doing is you're creating the images from your memory, okay? You're not doing them out of your imagination. There's no such thing as imagination. Where that word has ever come from, and that idea has ever come from, I don't know, because it doesn't exist. Right? So, if you want to improve your database of ideas and images, what you need to do is draw them. Because the minute you've drawn them, they're in there. Right? I can do you an incredibly convincing tree. I've drawn so many trees. So I can do you a really convincing tree because I've done so many. It's like when I was doing dogs. Border collies, I did so many border collies. I could stand here now and draw you a border collie, and it would be pretty convincing. Ask me to draw you a borzoi. I know what a borzoi is, I know roughly what it looks like, but I've never drawn one, so I can't bring it out of my memory. Right? So, if you want to do stuff like this and have an imagination, you've got to create a memory. And so to do that, just draw on every occasion anything you can. It doesn't matter what you draw, because all you're doing is you're filling your head with shapes and patterns and stuff that you can use. You're creating a database of ideas and images that you can use. Hence the gentleman there saying he knows about trains, so he could do, probably, a really interesting piece like this based on trains. Yeah? And I bet all of you have got an interest of some description that is, you know, you know a lot about it. What I'm doing here now, my memory, if you like, is of the wonderful gardens that are in Venice. There are courtyard gardens, and as you walk down the back streets, the narrow little streets, you look through gates and there's this amazing courtyard gardens. And very often there's stuff hanging over the walls into the Bougainvillea in particular. So this, I'm going to do marks like this to suggest a wall, and then I'm going to play around with this green to suggest it turns into foliage, and it's, you know, it's a representational idea, but I'm not doing it as a representational picture. I'm just using that sense and idea. This to me has got to be a window. In a lot of the church buildings, they have these massive round windows. Very often with a cross in the centre. So I'm going to change that like that. This mark here is irritating, so I'm going to use the colour.
That's not nice, that.
It was our first brief one to go up.
He's still under that.
Yes, there's still some evidence of it, it's just modified. So, if I take a bit of this yellow, it needs stirring. often these pigments, if they're not earth pigments are better, but some of these mineral pigments settle, and all the, it's just like emulsion. You know, all the oil, all the binder is on the top. So just like emulsion, you need to give it a good stir again to bring it back to the proper consistency. And a rag somewhere. You know this stuff's lethal. You know, you really don't want to get it on your clothes because you can never get it off. So I haven't come dressed in my best gear tonight. And I wear the apron for my defence mechanism. Right. Some green. Oh no, I was going to use yellow, that's right. Way cool. So I'm going to modify the green with some yellow.
Oh, there's a nice drip now.
Oh, there we go. Right. Now this is very, very dominant, and I need to do something with it to bring it together.
Knock it back a bit.
Yes, exactly. I'm just pondering on how to knock it back a bit. I think I might just resort to a similar tactic.
Stick a bit of glue on it,
No, I think I'm just going to temper it by adding some of these smaller marks, so the red is still there, but it's not quite so hard-edged and dominant. It's funny, I did a demonstration once of exactly the same as this, in the sense of chucking the paint on, moving it around and so on and so forth. And it was virtually finished. I was really, really happy with it. It wasn't very big, it was only this big. And I said, there's something wrong with this, could anybody tell me? Nobody said no, so I said, it's this. And there was a huge flat mark in it. And most of the texture was like this, and there was this piece of very smooth, flat surface, the texture. And I just got the same colour, something very similar to it, and broke it up so that the mark was the same as the rest of the marks in the thing. And somebody said, why did you do that? And the only answer I could give was, it felt right. Right? There isn't always a logical, rational reason for what you do. There isn't a technical reason for what you do. Sometimes it's just, it felt right. And you know, that's, and on that particular occasion, that was the answer. I get the feeling with this one, that the way it's going is that I'm going to do it like this. No, it's green, or it's black. I'm going to do it like this, and using this sort of colour shaper, and keeping to this theme for quite a lot of the painting. But I suspect that I'm going to eventually resort to a rigger or a small brush and start doing quite fine little marks and sort of details in. For instance, in here, I might well use a rigger to put some lines in to suggest the vine-like branches that are, interacting with the foliage. On here, I might well use a brush to maybe suggest some planks to turn this into a door, maybe a door handle and things like that. So I might sort of, in fact I almost certainly will, because that's the way it feels it's going, It's, it needs to have some intricacy in it, I think, to finish it. I don't feel I can finish it with these instruments. Very often I do, but on this particular case, I don't think it'll work. I need to play with more of the sort of detail to tell the story. With acrylic paints, you've got really cheap and nasty stuff, which is made in China, and then you've got the kind of low-grade stuff like System 3. You can tell by the colours, If you start getting into acrylics and you really, really want the best, then you buy Liquitex. And this is at least twice the price of, and the thing about it is, it's the quality of the pigments that are used in it. You do get a finish, but I would only suggest that's the truth if you want to do highly detailed representational work. So if I'm doing, a painting that I'm expecting to get £1,000 or more for, and I'm using acrylics, I'll be using Liquitex, and I'll be getting finishes on it that I know I can't get with the cheaper paints. So, but for this, most of the time, the cheaper paints are fine. You can go to wherever it is and buy this stuff. See, that white still hasn't dried. So I'm still able to play around with it to a certain extent. I've got a little patch of green here, which again suggests some foliage. So I'm going to create a wall to put the foliage on. So I'm going to use this perspective here and play with it something like that. Maybe take it past here a little bit and bring it down. So put something like that, a bit darker in there. And then probably use a brush, because I can do little dobs and things, and turn that into training foliage. Perspective rubbish. That ought to be more like that, not so steep. Starting to get that sense of depth, so I can play a bit more with the perspective, maybe doing something like that. stars on. Right, we've got 5 minutes left. Any more questions, arguments, debates?
Your cityscape with the 4 canvases together, how
Yeah.
do you do the lines?
The thing I forgot to mention with this one is that I coated it with texture paste. So all of this raised texture is texture paste. These lines are done with a rigger. And all these very small windows and marks are done with a very small colour shape. They're all little blobs with a very small colour shape. Yeah, it took me a while. Sorry?
It realised it looks like netting at the bottom.
Yeah, those are just done with a rigger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very thin paint, so it runs. I think a rigger actually is my favourite brush. I do tend to use it quite a lot. It's an obvious choice when I'm doing birds, of course, to do the feathers. So. Yes. This bit here and this bit here now that I'm not happy with, in the sense that I need to kind of seriously do something with it. And the top bit, I need to seriously get rid of it. So I'm going to go back to the white and just do that. That's fine. Right. Okay then. You see how I'm working on it sort of holistically. I keep looking at the whole thing and how it's working, and I'm, bit over here, and so on and so forth. And I'm trying to get it to a point where I think, yes, I've got an idea. I've got the basic pattern, if you like, the basic forms and shapes. I've got them arranged into an interesting combination, composition, whatever you want to call them. And nothing's jarring, nothing's sort of really annoying me. And once I've got to that point, I can then take this area, get a small brush, a rigger or whatever, and I can start playing around with the detail to a much greater extent, and start resolving each area in its own way. And again, it's not a proper representational image, but it's you know, it's got the elements of Venice. And if I keep playing around with you know, a boat down here, I'm probably going to make this boat come out of this arch, because as you know, in the canals they've got these arches that lead into the underground. So I'm going to probably play around with that as a boat coming out of this arch here. I'm going to have to play around a little bit with the perspective there to maybe make that look like there's a door that's closed and one that's open so you can see inside. So I'll make this much darker and play around with this to try and create that idea of the water going inside that space rather than that hard line running down there. These are all very representational ideas in tiny bits, but the whole thing is sort of put together in a non-representational way, if that makes sense. Yeah? So it's got potential, this one has, yes. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. I love the idea of the master, guest and servant, not servant necessarily, but can you point out where you think the master, guest and
There isn't. The master, guest and servant thing is more an idea that's used in representational painting.
Right.
It's hard to use it particularly. It did occur to me in this particular one, which isn't that abstract in a way, that there was something missing, and I thought about this idea of this compositional idea of the servant, and yes, it needs a bit of something here to make it zing for me, and I don't know what it is yet. I need to play around with it, and I don't even know what colour it is. Probably a dark blue like this, but not so big. Yeah, I mean, just play with it.
Right.
But this one, I really don't think, and it's like this one, there is no, if you like, composition in that sense in this. It's just simply a lot of bits glued together in a fairly random way, but it's not that random, if you like. All the time I'm thinking of a sense of balance. And that's quite personal very often. Somebody could do this particular idea and it would have a completely different kind of balance to it. That's very personal, and it's up to you. Always be confident in your own ideas, in your own sense of what a picture is and when it's finished. There's a lady over there who insists that this is finished. I don't think it is. And I will do some more work to it.
Thank you very much, Ronald.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been good fun.